Today's headlines. Malacanang assures that the newly signed tax reform package will free most Filipinos from paying income taxes. Authorities monitor the prices and supplies of major necessities in Biliran Island following the onslaught of Typhoon Urduha. President Duterte calls for the immediate entry of the third telco entity into the country by the first quarter of 2018. The Food and Nutrition Research Institute issues tips to prevent the health hazards of holiday binge eating. Good day, I'm Pia Rosas Morato. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Malacanang highlighted the benefits of the newly signed tax reform package, particularly for low-income taxpayers. The palace also assured the package charges taxes on everyone fairly. Here's our report.
Malacanang said the tax reform package or the Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion Bill that President Rodrigo Duterte signed into law would spare 99% of Filipinos from paying income taxes. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that this is because the priority tax reform bill exempts those who have an annual income of not more than 250,000 pesos. Roque said that among those exempted include minimum wage workers, clerks, and call center agents. Public hospital doctors would also get a tax reduction under train. In the meantime, there is also a provision for simplified taxes for small and micro taxpayers. The palace spokesperson said that value-added tax was also modified to make it fairer to everyone. The provision is vital for the growth of small businesses, as small and micro enterprises represent 98% of all registered businesses in the country. Prescription drugs for diabetes, high cholesterol, and hypertension will also become VAT-free starting 2019, while purchases of senior citizens and people with disability continue to become exempted from VAT. Roque said that the increased coal excise tax, which had generated a lot of debates, would translate only to a very small increase in terms of the price of electricity. Meanwhile, the bill also provided for varied tax increases in petroleum products, while keeping to a minimum the increase in liquefied petroleum gas, diesel, and gasoline. Other salient provisions of the train bill included lower estate taxes, higher excise tax for automobiles, excise tax for sugar-sweetened beverages, higher mining excise tax, and higher excise tax for tobacco products. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
The Department of Trade and Industry is closely monitoring supplies and prices of goods in Biliran Province, which was affected by Tropical Depression Urduha. DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez said that prices of water and basic goods are normal, with supplies coming from Cebu through roll-on, roll-off, ship, or RoRo. DTI reminded retailers to keep basic goods in their prevailing prices after implementing a price freeze in Biliran. Prices of household liquefied petroleum gas and kerosene shall also have no movement for 15 days since placing Biliran under state of calamity Monday, December 18. Meanwhile, the Department of Energy will look into the reported overpricing of oil products in Biliran after Urduha damaged roads and bridges leading to the provincial capital. DOE Undersecretary Felix William Fentebella urged local authorities and even social media users to document overpricing. Some gasoline stations have already closed Tuesday as oil supply ran out. The price of retail gasoline sold by some houses in Naval Town now costs 90 to 100 pesos per liter. Only a few fuel suppliers are left operating. The DOE officials said ship tankers would come to Biliran to avert shortage of petroleum products in the province. President Rodrigo Duterte ordered the Department of Social Welfare and Development and the National Food Authority to set up food supply depots in provinces highly susceptible to natural disasters. Agriculture Secretary Emmanuel Piñol said the president issued the directive after mayors in the province complained of food supply shortage after the storm. The official said the idea came in the aftermath of Super Typhoon Yolanda in eastern Visayas, where people resorted to food looting due to shortage. Duterte's idea of food supply depots was presented during the APEC Agriculture Ministers Conference in Peru in 2016. The DSWD announced the delivery of 15,000 food packs from Cebu and 10,000 food packs from Leyte. Duterte visited the storm-stricken province late Monday afternoon to check the impact of the storm. He and his cabinet promised to mobilize all resources to help the province recover. The military will deploy its engineering units to assist in relief and rehabilitation efforts in areas hit by Tropical Depression Orduha. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said the AFP engineering brigades are on their way to the affected areas. The defense chief also said a Navy ship carrying relief goods would arrive in Biliran to assist in relief operations in the province. The Navy said it is now preparing its ships to help in the ongoing relief efforts for provinces devastated by Tropical Depression Orduha. These include 2 strategic sea lift vessels acquired from Indonesia and 5 landing craft heavies acquired from the Royal Australian Navy. Due to the damages sustained by the province, Biliran has been placed under a state of calamity. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines slammed the attack by New People's Army against government forces who provided relief to calamity victims in northern Samar. Father Edu Garrigues, Executive Secretary of CBCP National Secretariat for Social Action, Justice and Peace, said that the military should not be targeted in emergency humanitarian operation. With this, the Catholic priest renewed its call to resume peace talks and end the armed conflict between the government and the NPA. The military earlier said it is not inclined to declare a holiday truce with the communist terrorists, citing the recent attack. 2 soldiers were hurt on Sunday after they were ambushed by the NPA while they were on their way to a relief operation in Catubig, northern Samar, which was hit by Tropical Depression Orduha. The Office of the Political Advisor is warning the public against a certain individual posing as an assistant secretary of the office. In a notice from Malacanang signed by OPA Secretary Francis Tolentino, the office said a certain Jolo Granados was handing out business cards with an incorrect address and a seal different from the official seal. The person is said to solicit money for the alleged benefit of Marawi soldiers, senior citizens, illegal drug campaigns, or any other cause. The OPA warned that Granados is not connected to the agency and should be avoided. Still to come, President Duterte calls for the immediate entry of the 3rd telco entity into the country by the first quarter of 2018. 2 children are confirmed dead due to complication caused by the dengue vaccine. These and more when the PNA Newsroom continues. The National Economic and Development Authority lauded the passage of the tax reform package as part of the government's efforts to boost the economy. Here's our report.
The National Economic and Development Authority welcomes the passage of the Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion Bill, noting its implementation will benefit majority of Filipinos and boost the achievement of economic growth targets. TRAIN, which was signed Tuesday by President Rodrigo Duterte, is the first package of the government's proposed Comprehensive Tax Reform Program, or CTRP, which is seen to generate additional revenue to fund the country's investment requirements. NEDA Director General and Socioeconomic Planning Secretary Ernesto Pernia said the implementation of TRAIN will increase the spending capacity of the average Filipino, boost revenue to gross domestic product ratio, and fund government's infrastructure and human capital investment program. With the CTRP, NEDA's analysis shows that real GDP will be higher by up to 1.1% by year 2022. The NEDA also welcomes the passage of the General Appropriations Act for 2018. The 2018 GAA proposes a national budget of 3.7 trillion pesos, 12% higher than last year's budget. Pernia said the national budget and the TRAIN are in line with the development strategies in the government's Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022, which identifies tax reform, infrastructure development, and human capital investment as priorities. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
President Rodrigo Duterte has instructed the Department of Information and Communications Technology and the National Telecommunications Commission to fast-track the entry of the third telco player in the country. The NTC and DICT were tasked to approve all applications and licenses within 7 days upon complete submission of requirements. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the president wanted this order implemented until March next year. He said DICT Acting Secretary Eliseo Rio Jr. and NTC Commissioner Gamaliel Cordova have vowed to make a third telco player operational by early March 2018 to compete with Globe and Smart. Roque allayed fears of a security breach by foreign entities, saying even foreigners have minority ownership in other telcos. He likewise assured that constitutional restrictions on foreign ownership in public utilities will be observed and the selection process would be transparent. The third telco slot was offered by President Duterte to China at the conclusion of the ASEAN Summit last November. The Chinese government has selected China Telecoms to invest in the Philippines. 2 children who received the Dengvaxia vaccine ended up dying due to severe dengue. Both were among those found to be in danger of contracting the disease after taking the vaccine despite non-exposure to dengue. Here's our report.
The Public Attorney's Office confirmed that there were 2 victims who died after being administered with Dengvaxia, the world's first ever dengue vaccine, which was found to cause health risk to individuals with no prior dengue infection. PAO Chief Attorney Persida Rueda Acosta and the Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption, or VACC, presented the parents of Angelica Pastillos and Christine May de Guzman, both 10, who died months after receiving the vaccine. De Guzman received a shot of Dengvaxia on April 16 last year through a school vaccination project at Sisiman Elementary School. The parents said after 6 months, or on October 11, their child suffered numerous complications. Her condition worsened until she died on October 15. Pestillos, on the other hand, died just last December 6 at the East Avenue Medical Center in Quezon City. Acosta said that in both cases, the victims never suffered previous dengue exposure. Both were administered with Dengvaxia and have died from severe dengue. The VACC called the immunization program worse than any heinous crime. It urged the DOH to set up help desks to receive complaints from affected parents and also vowed to help them seek compensation. The VACC is also pushing for the conduct of an investigation in order to hold those responsible for the mass vaccination. The DOH said around 10% of over 700,000 school children who received the shots were at risk to a severe case of the disease. DOH Secretary Francisco Duque III had ordered the suspension of the dengue vaccination program pending recommendation on further action from experts from the WHO. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
The Department of Health will place its units on white code as it starts monitoring firecracker-related injuries on Thursday. DOH Undersecretary Gerardo Bayugo said white code will take effect from December 21 until January 5, 2018. Code White Alert refers to the readiness of hospital manpower such as doctors and nurses to respond to any emergency situation. Health officials made the rounds of hospitals to check their preparedness to handle those injured by firecrackers during the holidays. Bayugo said they plan to expand the number of hospitals to be included in generating data on the casualties on firecrackers. The DOH is hoping to achieve zero firecracker-related injuries this coming new year. Last January, the department announced a 32% decrease in firecracker-related injuries compared to the figure the year before. A total of 630 fireworks-related injuries were recorded by 50 Sentinel hospitals. 290 members of the underground mass organizations of the CPP-NPA surrendered to the 701st Infantry Battalion in Pantucan, Compostela Valley. The members surrendered 34 low and high-powered firearms, including an improvised explosive device. The surrenderers would undergo a peace-building seminar to help them cope with challenges and assist them in building conflict-resilient communities. The battalion pointed out the high number of surrenderers shows that communities will no longer support the propaganda and ideology of the terrorist group. Brigadier General Ruben Basiao, commander of the 701st Brigade, said the members were victims of deception by the communist rebels that target geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas. He said the Philippine Army would continue to bridge the gap and help the government establish communities that are peaceful and conflict resilient. Up next, Minproba Bantamweight champion Vincent Astrolabio loses his undefeated streak. The Food and Nutrition Research Institute issues tips to prevent the health hazards of holiday binge eating. These and more when the PNA Newsroom returns. Ceres Negros thrashed Global Cebu 4-1 in the championship game of the first season of the Philippines Football League at the Panad Stadium in Bacolod City. Ian Ramsey scored the last 3 goals for the home side as Negros won its 5th title in a national competition overall since it was founded in 2012. Bienve Marañon drew the first blood for Negros with his goal in the 4th minute. Cebu averted a shutout on the road as Daryl Roberts scored the consolation goal. As an inaugural winner of the PFL, Negros earned a spot in the qualifiers of the Asian Football Confederation Champions League. Minproba Bantamweight champion Vincent Acero Astrolabio of the MP Davao Gym suffered his first defeat after losing to John Mark Iceman Apolinario of Sanman Boxing Gym at the Robinson's Place in General Santos City. Apolinario, former WBO Oriental Super Flyweight champion from Maasim Sarangani Province, landed more telling blows against Astrolabio, who was already tired in the final 3 rounds of their scheduled 10-rounder. It was only the first loss after 10 straight wins by Astrolabio. The 27-year-old Apolinario improved his record to 19 wins with 4 knockouts against 11 losses and 3 draws. Meanwhile, reigning Minproba Flyweight champion Genesis Cobra Libranza scored a majority decision over Michael Enriquez in their 10-rounder bout. It was a main event of the Hard Hitters boxing card by the MP Promotions held in celebration of the birthday of Senator Manny Pacquiao. Davao Oriental Governor Nelson Dayanghirang expressed his gratitude to the employees of the provincial capital as they celebrated their denim-themed Christmas party. Employees sported their denim outfits as they played games and performed song and dance numbers for guests. Daeng Hirang said he prepared plenty of giveaways for Capital employees. He also announced that all workers will receive cash bonuses for this year. Daeng Hirang thanked the employees of the provincial government for their hard work and support for province's projects. He announced that Davao Oriental has been the only province in Davao region awarded with the prestigious seal of good local governance. He cited the successes of the armed forces of the Philippines in establishing the province's peace situation. Other best practices that have garnered national recognition were the implementation of the Happy Home Halfway House for former rebels and the Nagkakaisang Lingkod Bayan ng Davao Oriental Barangay Outreach Caravan. Experts remind the public to watch their health even if there's a lot of good food to eat during the holiday season. It says splurging during Christmas should not come at the cost of one's health. Here's a report.
The Food and Nutrition Research Institute of the Department of Science and Technology cautions holiday makers and goers to observe eating healthy food this Christmas. Dr. Mario Capanzana, director of the FNRI DOST, said holiday eating during the Yuletide season does not necessarily mean splurging to your stomach's content. The FNRI DOST cautioned that frequent partying can lead someone to becoming overweight or obese, leading to what health buffs and wellness gurus call the balikalindog regimen after the holidays. With this in mind, FNRI reminds happy holiday eating and food consumers to know what to include in the variety of foods in your plate. Here are some FNRI DOST simple tips you can follow to maintain your weight during the holidays. Eat meals with lower fat and calories during the day to save up for splurges at social events. Balance party eating with other meals like salads and fruits. Be selective while eating. Choose special foods. Keep and eat small portions. Focus on socializing. Greeting people and striking a conversation is calorie-free. Avoid frequent overeating and drinking alcohol, since these habits may lead to becoming overweight or obese. Do not drink alcohol with an empty stomach. It may lead to hypoglycemia or low blood sugar levels since it may inhibit the release of glucose from glycogen in the liver. After a holiday meal, take a walk. Walking burns calories and helps deal with holiday stress. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Philippine Cervantes.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country.
President Rodrigo Duterte has declared a unilateral ceasefire with communist rebels this Christmas season. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque Jr. said the president announced the suspension of military operations against the CPP-NPA-NDF Tuesday night. The SOMO will run from December 24, 2017 to January 2, 2018. Malacanang expects the communist rebels to return the favor. Duterte earlier said he was not keen on declaring a Christmas truce with the communist rebels following the continued attacks against state security forces. However, the president said early Wednesday that if ever he declares a truce, it would be out of consideration for the well-being of the Filipino people. The president added that the ceasefire is a unilateral action of government to refrain from attacking. This was seconded by the Department of National Defense, which said that the SOMO pertains only to combat operations. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Ben Tishorna.
Let's take another look at today's headlines. Malacanang assures that the newly signed tax reform package will free most Filipinos from paying income taxes. Authorities monitor the prices and supplies of major necessities in Biliran Island following the onslaught of Typhoon Urduha. President Duterte calls for the immediate entry of the third telco entity into the country by the first quarter of 2018. The Food and Nutrition Research Institute issues tips to prevent the health hazards of holiday binge eating. The holidays are coming soon. It's 5 days before Christmas. For more stories, please log on to www.pna.gov.ph or visit the PNA page on Facebook and Twitter. And that's your daily dose of the hottest news and the latest information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Pia Rosas Morato. Good day.